So students, today we are going to learn the experiment of inorganic chemistry, inorganic preparation. Aim of our experiment is to prepare bis dimethyl gloxymato-nickel 2 complex. So how the reaction is going to be, the complex is of nickel, so we'll need a nickel solution, aqueous solution, a nickel 2 plus ion, and the ligand is dimethyl gloxime. So the ligand is dimethyl glyoxime. We'll try to elucidate the structure of dimethyl glyoxime, how it is. Gly suggests that two functional groups are adjacent to each other, or we can say vicinal to each other. Which functional groups? Oxime. We know oxime is NOH. NOH. So this is glyoxime. What next is dimethyl. So other valencies of both the carbon are satisfied by methyl group. So this is the structure of dimethyl glyoxime. The ligand or the reagent which is going to form a complex with our transition metal nickel, and this is an aqueous solution of nickel. Aqueous solution of nickel. On reaction, the complex that will be obtained will be of nickel complex, and the ligand is attached to this complex in this way. So the structure of nickel dimethyl glyoxime complex is as follows. So these are the two nitrogens that I am showing over here and here. These are attached to double bond C, then C, again double bond N, and these carbons are then individually attached to methyl group. Nitrogen is attached to OH group. This nitrogen is also attached to OH group, but in this reaction one of the hydrogen is lost as proton, so minus 1H plus. So this will be O minus. Another dimethyl glyoxime molecule will be bonded from this side. So in this molecule, in this complex, there are two dimethyl glyoxime ligands that are complexing the metal ion. This molecule will also lose one proton, so this is one proton is lost from this oxygen, and this is OH. We know any bond of hydrogen with the high electronegative atoms such as fluorine or oxygen or nitrogen have a tendency to create a partial charges. So there will be partial positive charge on hydrogen, there will be partial positive charge on this hydrogen as well. There is a negative oxygen very close, in close proximity, and this will result in the formation of attraction between a negative oxygen and a partially positive charged hydrogen. We call such type of interaction as a hydrogen bond. You have studied hydrogen bond in chemistry as well as in DNA. So this is hydrogen bonding interaction. And nitrogen, after forming three bonds, will always have one lone pair with it, and these lone pairs are donated to metal ion to form a respective complex. This is the complex that is of our interest. What we can see is there are two ligands, two dimethyl glyoxime ligands that are used. This is one dimethyl glyoxime molecule, this is another dimethyl glyoxime molecule. So two dimethyl glyoxime molecules. Furthermore, every molecule is losing one proton. This molecule has lost proton from this oxygen. This molecule has lost proton from this oxygen. So two protons are lost. And it is very much necessary that for this reaction to happen, a proton must be lost. And our chemistry principle says that a proton will not be lost unless and until there is someone who can take up this proton. So apart from this reagent, unless I add some reagent in this which can take away a proton, this reaction is not possible. So we want someone who is proton acceptor. We know what are proton acceptors. Proton acceptors are Bronsted base. So any Bronsted base can make this reaction possible. We are going to do this by adding ammonia. Ammonia is a Bronsted base, and so ammonia, what is the job of ammonia? Job of ammonia is only to take away the protons that must be taken away for this complex to be formed. And IUPAC name of this complex is bis dimethyl glyoxymato nickel 2. Bis dimethyl glyoxymato nickel 2. Furthermore, if you will see, the oxidation state of nickel is +2. And what is the charge on one ligand? -1. Charge on another ligand? -1. So total negative charge is -2. Total positive charge is +2. +2 -2 is 0. So complex as a whole is electrically neutral. So complex as a whole is electrically neutral. There is no charge on this complex, and we know that if the species is not charged, if there is no partial or complete charge on that species, that compound has to be water insoluble. So as soon as this compound will be formed, you will get a precipitate of this complex. So this complex is water insoluble and it will result in precipitate. One more point that is to be kept in our mind is, your nickel is an aqueous solution. Your nickel is in aqueous solution, but dimethyl glyoxime is insoluble in water. So we'll use an alcoholic solution of dimethyl glyoxime. So your DMG is in alcohol, nickel is in water, but because alcohol and water are miscible with each other, this species comes in close proximity with nickel, and if proton acceptor is present, proton acceptor takes away the proton, and nickel and DMG ventures into this chemical reaction, consequently forming the complex of our interest. This complex is scarlet red color, as you will see when we are carrying out the reaction. So this is all about the theoretical part and the explanation regarding the experiment. Now we'll see how the experiment will go ahead. So now we'll start with the actual experiment. I talked about the theory of the preparation. So we have a nickel solution. This is a nickel solution, a green color solution. Nickel sulfate solution, a 5% solution, that is 5 gram of nickel is dissolved in 100 ml of aqueous solution. Then we have a complexing ligand, that is 1% DMG. 1% means 1 gram of dimethyl glyoxime is dissolved in 100 ml of ethyl alcohol, and we have ammonia, a proton acceptor. So we shall start with the experiment now. What we'll do is, first of all, we'll take the 5% nickel solution. According to the chemistry principle, we must always perform the experiment only and only at lowest possible concentration, because this will save chemicals and will definitely save our environment. So this is a greener approach. So we'll not take the complete 5% concentrated solution. We'll take 10 ml of it from burette. So burette is already filled with nickel solution. And what is this? This is standard measuring flask. On this you can see it is 100 ml at 27 degrees Celsius. We know that as temperature increases, every material expands. And so if the temperature will fluctuate, obviously this glassware will also expand or contract. So it mentions that it is exactly 100 ml at 27 degrees Celsius. And this glassware is called as volumetric flask or standard measuring flask. So we'll take 10 ml of it from a burette. So we took exactly 10 ml of a sample solution in this, And now we'll dilute this up to the mark with distilled water. Sir? So I have a distilled water in a beaker and a sample solution is already taken in a standard measuring flask. So we'll dilute this sample solution with distilled water like this. So when we are coming exactly closer to the mark that matches to 100 ml, we must stop adding water like this. We must always use pipette to do the fine dilution. So I have taken water in a pipette and there is a mark, etched mark over here. I will adjust a lower meniscus of water slowly and gradually. Lower meniscus adjusted. Now this solution is diluted exactly 100 ml. So my dilution is complete. Now I cork the standard flask and then I shake the solution. Solution must be shaken like this. So this is the diluted solution ready for analysis. So we'll start with the experiment. We have already prepared a solution of nickel, diluted it up to the mark to 100 ml. What we have is a glassware. The very first job a good chemist do is washes all the glassware. Though you know that glassware has already been washed, then too it is your responsibility to clean the glass again to ensure that nothing goes wrong during your experiment. So what is required? You will require the glassware, and the very first thing that you must have with you is a cleaning cloth, and cleaning cloth must be a cotton cleaning cloth, not a synthetic fiber. You must either have a matchbox or a lighter. Lighter will always be better over matchbox because matchbox will, every time you have to strike a new stick, and the better part of this lighter is it will last long. Once you are taking this lighter, it will last long, at least for a year or 1.5 years. So you must have your own lighter and a cleaning cloth. Glassware, what we require is beaker, will require a test tube, then 25 ml pipette, 10 ml pipette. Then what we require is, we require a dropper, a clay triangle, a watch glass, a tripod stand, and a water bath. So we shall start with the experiment now. And a glass rod, and a glass rod to stir the solution. So how we are going to perform the experiment is, we'll again shake this for homogeneity, and then we'll open it, and we'll pipette out 50 ml of it in a beaker in which we are going to prepare our complex. So this is 25 ml beaker, 25 ml pipette. So we'll pipette out it. First of all, we'll rinse the pipette. Because it is washed with water, some of the water will be stuck to the inner walls of the pipette. So we'll take the reagent, take the analyte, and we'll rinse it like this. And after rinsing, we'll pipette out 25 ml. Lower meniscus is to be adjusted. So a lower meniscus is adjusted. This is 25 ml sample. You will hold it like this, exactly upright. and allow the solution to drain under the action of gravity. Let the solution to drain completely. Once the solution is drained completely, you will hold the beaker in your hand and you will touch the nozzle of your pipette to the inner wall of the beaker and allow the solution that is left out, the last drop, to collect in this manner. Even after collecting this, you can see that there is some amount of solution still there in the pipette which is not getting drained out under the action of gravity. This is the extra amount. 25 ml is already been collected. So after the collection, you should never blow the pipette so as to collect this additional amount. So this is the 25 ml. We will take one more. ml sample, so that total will be 50 ml. So this is another 25 ml installment we are going to add. Pipette should be upright, it should not be slanted, to ensure that the volume delivered by the pipette is exact. So again I will hold it like this. So now I have 25 ml solution, 50 ml sample in a beaker. So now we'll start with the experiment. We have a solution, alcoholic solution of dimethyl glyoxam 1%. I have taken one test tube of dimethyl glyoxam. Every reagent that is to be used for complexing a metal ion must be taken in excess. So one test tube of dimethyl glyoxam is more than enough for this reaction. I'll take the glass rod, and care is to be taken that when you take the glass rod, you have a glass rod which have a flat end and an end which is flattened like this. So this is to be a flattened part, this is to be held in your hand, and this end is to be placed in a beaker. So we'll place the glass rod in a beaker and then we'll pour the dimethyl glyoxam solution slowly. We'll not pour directly in a beaker, but we'll pour it on a glass rod. This will make sure that solution rolls on the glass rod and slowly comes in contact with our nickel ion solution. If I drop it like this, a drop when falls in a beaker, the solution splashes out. We are going to avoid the splashing, so we'll make the solution to roll over the glass rod. Now I have told you that this complex is scarlet red color. There is no scarlet red color seen in this. Means there is dimethyl glyoxam, there is nickel in the solution, but both are not ready to react with each other. Why they are not ready to react with each other? Because we know that dimethyl glyoxam is going to react with nickel ion only and only after losing a proton. And unless and until we add someone who can take away a proton, who will take away the proton? It is a Bronsted base. So unless we add a Bronsted base, this reaction cannot take up the direction that is of our interest. So we are adding a DMG, dimethyl glyoxam, slowly and gradually. You can see that some of the pink color is generated to the solution, very slightly pink color. So there is a tug of war between nickel and DMG. DMG want to react with nickel, nickel want to react with DMG, but because there is no one who can take away proton, this reaction is not happening so beautifully. So reaction is now suffering. Nickel want to combine with DMG, DMG want to combine with nickel, but both cannot combine as we haven't added any proton acceptor. Despite of the struggle, some of the nickel and DMG still succeeded to form a complex that we can see on the by looking at the pink color of the complex. But when I will add a proton acceptor, that is ammonia, you will see that the reaction goes at a faster rate. So I have added Care is to be taken that every reagent must be added in a small installment, must not be added all at once. So we have added the DMG completely, and now we are going to add a Bronsted base, aqueous ammonia. And how this ammonia is? 1:1 ammonia. 1:1 ammonia means amount of water and amount of ammonia is same. So I'll add ammonia and instantly a reaction will trigger. You can see that a dark scarlet red color has formed. A dark scarlet red color has formed. This reaction is slightly exothermic, and so I can even see that there is slight temperature rise. Slight temperature rise. What is the job of ammonia? Is only to take away the proton. Is only to take away the proton. So I want this ammonia to be present in the solution. And how much ammonia is to be added? Only that much ammonia is to be added, which will give a distinct smell of ammonia to the solution. So I'll see if you are getting a smell of ammonia. So there is no distinct smell of ammonia, so I need to add more. Now I am getting a distinct smell of ammonia. You might be knowing that ammonia is a very have suffocating and stinging smell. So it is giving a stinging smell. And for having a good quality precipitate, it is necessary that we stir the solution nicely. Stirring means we must stir the glass rod like this, not like this. This is called as swirling, and this is stirring. So swirling will not create more noise, and stirring will create a noise. Now even if you will swirl, you will observe that you will not get good quality precipitate. So if you want good quality precipitate, it is necessary that you stir it vigorously, allowing precipitation to occur nicely. You can see that the precipitate is formed. All the pink colored powder is now slowly and gradually settling down. So a precipitate of nickel DMG, a very beautiful scarlet red color. So this is the beauty of transition metal compounds. What is the beauty of transition metal compounds? What was the color of our nickel aqueous solution? Green color. And same metal ion nickel is combining with dimethyl glyoxime and giving what color? Scarlet red color. Scarlet red color. And you have already studied in your lower class what is the reason why transition metal compounds are colored? It is because of DD transition. It is because of DD transition. So this nickel solution is green color because of DD transition. This nickel solution is also red colored because of DD transition, and this DD transition is making these compounds beautifully colored. Now we'll see what to be done with this precipitate. So this is Bunsen burner. So I have lighted up a Bunsen burner. You might be knowing that this is oxidizing flame. We can roll the collar, and this is reducing flame. Reducing flame gives luminous flame, and oxidizing flame gives non-luminous flame, a blue color. Okay. So what we are doing is, we have already got the complex, nickel DMG complex. Our job is to now digest the precipitate. Now what is digestion and why we are doing that? I'll talk on that. Before that I must tell you what is to be done. So this is the tripod stand. We'll keep a tripod stand in this way, and then we'll place a water bath. This is a bath in which we have taken a water. So water bath, and our job is to place this sample, but if I'll keep it directly, when water will start boiling, it will hit the glassware, and it is a chance that the glassware may crack out. So what we do is, we do not place the beaker directly, we place a clay triangle. So we take a clay triangle and put it in a water bath like this, and then we'll place a beaker on that clay drying, on that clay drying. So now we will digest this precipitate for 30 minutes, and our time 30 minutes will start when this water will start boiling. So once this water will start boiling, from that will take 0 time to 30 minutes, and after 30 minutes we'll switch off the burner. Now why this digestion is, what is the reason we are digesting? The precipitate that is formed, because precipitation is a faster process. When a precipitate forms, because it is happening at a faster rate, some impurities get trapped in a precipitate, and we don't want the impurity to be trapped in a precipitate. This impurity may be a foreign material that may be present in some reagents or the water that is being used by us, or sometimes even solvent molecules may be trapped as an impurity. So because precipitation is a faster process, during precipitation some impurities are trapped in a precipitate. So what is our job is, we want such particles, such precipitates which are with impurity to dissolve back into solution and reprecipitate at a slower rate. So when they are precipitating, they are not trapping any impurities in it, and this process is called as digestion. What we are doing here is, by heating it in a boiling water bath, we are increasing the temperature of the solution. As temperature increases, solubility increases. So because temperature is increasing, the precipitates, as temperature will increase, the precipitate that is formed which has trapped the impurity will go into solution, will dissolve. And when it will be in contact with boiling water for 30 minutes, all the precipitate which is trapping impurity will go into solution, will dissolve. And after that after 30 minutes we'll keep that aside so as to take up a room temperature. So again these particles will rearrange themselves, but because temperature is going down slowly and gradually, now the precipitation will not be fast but it will be slow, ensuring that no impurity is getting trapped inside the precipitate. So after digestion, the precipitate obtained will be in a more chemically pure form. So digestion is more and more very much important part of this experiment. And during the experiment digestion process, care is to be taken that we must not stir the solution in between. That is not recommended. So we'll allow this for digestion, okay, and after this digestion we'll filter. So after the digestion of the precipitate, we'll check if the precipitation is complete. How we are going to check if the precipitation is complete? We'll add by the drop by drop ammonia, and see when ammonia comes in contact with the solution if I am seeing any new precipitate to be formed. Again I will hold it in the manner that its nozzle touches to the wall of the beaker, so that ammonia rolls and slightly comes in contact. When ammonia is coming in contact, there is no precipitate formed, indicating that the precipitation is complete. So our precipitation is ready. Now next job is to filter the precipitate. So we'll see how the precipitate can be filtered. So how are we going to filter is, for filtration what are the requirement is, this is pair of tongs. Pair of tongs must always be held in this manner. This nozzle should point down. Pair of tongs. Then we have a desiccator. This is called as desiccator, and the job of desiccator is to keep the moisture away, to check the moisture. Desiccator is composed of glass. This is the glass lid and this is the glass body, and you can see this particular zone is filled with a anhydrous calcium chloride. Anhydrous calcium chloride is a good desiccant that it absorbs moisture. So all the moisture that is present inside this glass inside this glassware is absorbed efficiently by anhydrous calcium chloride. So this zone will be moisture free. Why we want zone to be moisture free? This desiccator must be opened. This lid should not be pulled up like this. It should be glided like this. So desiccator must be opened like this, and with the help of pair of tongs we must hold the glassware. We call this as a sintered glass crucible. Sintered glass crucible. It is recommended that we should not touch the glassware, sintered glass crucible under any circumstances, because all the dust, when you will hold it, will adhere on this beaker, on this sintered glass crucible, and it will add weight to that glassware. So it is recommended to hold it only with a pair of tongs. This sintered glass crucible is already thoroughly cleaned and kept in aqua regia for 24 hours to remove all the impurities. So what is our job is, we are going to filter the precipitate through this sintered glass crucible, which is a grade 3 crucible. I don't know if you can see the thing that is written. It is grade 3 JSIL. It tells us that it is a grade 3 crucible. This number tells us what is the pore size of the filter bed. The white disc inside this sintered glass crucible is a silica bed, and the pore size of this silica bed is adjusted accordingly, and depends on that the number of sintered glass crucible is decided. How are we going to do it is, we are going to filter the precipitate in a sintered glass crucible. Before that we need to weigh the crucible. This crucible was kept in a hot air oven for more than 2 hours, and then it is kept in a desiccator, so it is free from moisture. So we'll pull out this and first weigh the crucible. So first of all we'll weigh the crucible. This is a digital balance. This is the digital balance. You can see that it is showing the mass of this crucible as 32.9617 gram. 9617. Okay. So this particular weighing balance is then to be opened, and then this glassware, sintered glass crucible, is again to be placed in a desiccator. It is to be closed again. A lid of the weighing balance must be closed. This device is very delicate, and so one must not handle it rudely. While holding a desiccator, we must hold it like this. Okay. So now we'll see how to filter the precipitate, nickel DMG precipitate. For this we require a suction pump. This is a suction pump. This is the electrically operated device. When we switch it on, it creates a suction, and this will be attached to the glassware. This is a reservoir with a side tube. We attach this reservoir over here. So we attach this rubber tubing to the reservoir like this, so that it results in suction. This is called as adapter. You can see adapter is again a glass funnel, and there is a rubber cork. There is a hole from which a nozzle of the ring inside. So this adapter is to be placed over here. Adapter is to be placed over here. Again we have a pre-weighed crucible, sintered glass crucible. We will open the desiccator, and with the help of pair of tongs we will place the sintered glass crucible in an adapter. Okay. How we are going to filter is, first of all we'll take the solution that is to be filtered, and again we'll pour the solution on the glass rod, which will allow a smooth rolling of solution in the sintered glass crucible. When I am taking this away, care is to be taken that this glass rod should be picked up and immediately put inside the beaker. Otherwise, if we are moving it here and there, some drop may fall down and precipitate that we are expected to collect may be lost. Care is to be taken that do not happen. So then we'll start a suction pump. You can see that suction is working. All the precipitate is getting collected in the sintered glass crucible and the solution is getting drained down by the action of suction, vacuum. So solution is to be poured on a glass rod so that it rolls from the glass rod and enters into the sintered glass crucible. This ensures that solution is not splashing and there is no wastage of precipitate. So after pouring the whole precipitate, you see that there is some precipitate stuck to the inner walls of the beaker. We need to wash this by using a distilled water. This is distilled water. So again, how we are going to wash it? The care is to be taken that water is to be poured on a glass rod and water should roll from the walls of the beaker and it should be rolled over to 360 degrees so that all the precipitate along with the water drains down and gets collected. And then we'll stir it like this to ensure that the precipitate is getting mixed in water so that ultimately it gets collected in the sintered glass crucible. Allow this to suck completely. So after the filtration is complete, we remove the sintered glass crucible from the adapter and then we keep it for drying. In hot air oven. So after that, we again take out the crucible with the precipitate and put it in a pan which will be kept in a hot air oven which is adjusted at 110 degrees Celsius. So we'll keep this in hot air oven. And once the temperature is 110 degrees Celsius, we'll allow that to be kept at 110 degrees Celsius for 1 hour. After that, we'll remove the precipitate, reweigh the precipitate and subtract the weight of empty crucible. We'll get to know what amount of complex we have obtained. Okay. And herein how we are going to prepare the complex, and we'll get to know what is the amount of yield that we have obtained by doing stoichiometric calculations. Thank you so much.